Welcome in. It's just great to have you with us for another custom-tailored deep dive.
Absolutely. Thrilled to be here.
Because I know exactly why you're here. You've got a busy week. You want to gain that thorough, comprehensive knowledge on a topic without feeling completely overwhelmed by an absolute avalanche of information.
Right. You want to respect your own time.
Exactly. And you are in the perfect place. Today, our mission is to unpack a massive, highly detailed betting and preview guide for the 2026 Players' Championship.
Oh, this is a big one.
It really is. It's all going down this week from March 13th to the 15th at the legendary TPC Sawgrass in Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. Now, this tournament is famously dubbed golf's fifth major.
Yeah, and for good reason.
Right. When you look at the sheer scale of the stakes, it's pretty obvious why the golf world treats it that way. I mean, we are talking about a jaw-dropping $25 million purse.
Which is just astronomical.
And the legacy-defining prestige plus, 750 FedEx Cup points on the line. But for my money, what makes this week truly fascinating isn't just the giant novelty check waiting on the 18th green.
No, it's the golf course.
It is the extreme, almost diabolical unpredictability of the course itself. Okay, let's unpack this, because to really understand the chaos we are about to watch unfold this week, you have to understand the mind of the architect who actually built the golf course.
Yeah, you really can't talk about the Players' Championship without diving headfirst into the architectural philosophy of TPC Sawgrass, specifically the stadium course, which opened back in 1980, I believe.
Yeah, 1980.
This is widely considered the absolute masterpiece of the late legendary architect Pete Dye. And Pete Dye had a very distinct, almost cruel psychological goal when he built this place from what was essentially Florida swampland.
Cruel is definitely the right word for it.
It is. He designed it to mentally and physically challenge the absolute best golfers on the planet while simultaneously providing a brilliant amphitheater-style viewing experience for the spectators.
Hence the stadium moniker.
Exactly. That's where that comes from. But the core philosophy, the engine that drives the chaos here year after year, is that Dye forces players to think their way around the layout.
Right.
He actively strips away their biggest weapons. It demands a complete, totally disciplined golf game, punishing literally any lapse in concentration.
Which is such a massive departure from what we see week in and week out on the PGA Tour.
Oh, entirely.
Because if you look at modern golf, a lot of it feels like, well, a glorified home run derby. You guys just step up to the tee box, take a massive rip, and try to obliterate the ball 330 yards down the fairway.
And if they miss?
If they miss the fairway, they just hack it out of the rough with a wedge. But TPC Sawgrass is explicitly an anti-bomber layout. It is not a home run derby. It's a high-stakes, incredibly stressful game of chess.
A very stressful game of chess.
You cannot just blast your way out of trouble here. If you miss your spots, the course will instantly penalize you. Looking at the danger zones outlined in our source material, the sheer volume of hazards is staggering.
It really is. It's a 7,352-yard par 72 layout that is essentially a meticulously crafted minefield for the undisciplined player. First, you've got 92 sand bunkers.
92.
Scattered strategically to catch offline tee shots and loose approaches. Then you have the penal, completely unpredictable rough. But the real defense mechanisms, the things that cause tour pros to actually lose sleep on Wednesday night, are the greens and the water.
Let's talk about those greens.
The Bermuda grass greens here are small and incredibly firm. We're talking an average of only 5,500 square feet.
Wow.
So your margins for error on approach shots are microscopic compared to the massive putting surfaces we see at places like Torrey Pines or Kapalua. And then, of course, there's the water. There are 18 distinct water hazards on this golf course.
I just want to highlight that for you listening because it is wild to think about. Water is literally in play on 17 out of the 18 holes.
Yep, 17 holes.
Just imagine the mental toll that takes on a professional over 4 days. Every single time you step up to the ball, save for one single hole on the entire property, you know that a slight miscalculation.
A gust of wind.
Exactly. A gust of wind, a bad bounce, a tiny misstrike. It means your ball is going for a swim. If a weekend hacker like me played this course, I would probably need to pack 36 sleeves of balls just to make it to the turn.
You and me both.
Naturally, when anyone thinks of water at TPC Sawgrass, their mind instantly goes to the 17th hole. The famous 141-yard par 3 with the terrifying island green. It's iconic.
Oh, it's great television.
It is. The broadcasts play the highlights of guys dunking it in the water on an endless loop, and the fans sitting on the grass banks go absolutely crazy for the carnage.
What's fascinating here is that while the 17th hole provides the viral moments and the Sunday afternoon drama, It's not actually where the tournament is won or lost from a statistical standpoint. Yeah. The real test at TPC Sawgrass, the place where true separation happens on the leaderboard, is on the approach shots from 150 to 200 yards out, spread throughout the rest of the course.
So the 17th is just a distraction.
Essentially, yes. The island green is a visual spectacle, but navigating those small, well-protected, firm greens from the fairway requires elite distance control and trajectory. Dye uses visual deception, strange angles off the tee, and overhanging trees to make you uncomfortable.
He's playing mind games.
Constantly. Overcoming that discomfort and hitting a pure 175-yard iron to a tight pin location, that is the actual crucible of the stadium course.
Which perfectly transitions us into the data. Because if the course demands that kind of precise, chess-like strategy, the numbers should heavily reflect that reality.
And they absolutely do.
When we look at the statistical blueprint of a champion here, a very clear, undeniable picture emerges. The guide pulls the data from the champions over the last 5 years, from 2021 to 2025. You've got absolute heavy hitters hoisting the trophy.
The best of the best.
Right. Rory McIlroy took the title in 2025, adding to his previous win in 2019. Then you have Scottie Scheffler, who went back-to-back in 2023 and 2024. We are talking about the undisputed best players of their respective eras.
We are, and when you dig into the 5-year averages of those winners, the data tells a very specific story about how they actually conquered Pete Dye's design.
Lay it on us.
The absolute anchor stat, the metric that correlates to success here more than anything else, is strokes gained. Approach. Over the last 5 years, the winners at TPC Sawgrass averaged a massive plus 1.741 strokes gained on approach per round.
Wait, hold on. I'm looking at these notes and I have to stop you there.
Sure.
You're telling me that these guys are gaining nearly 2 full strokes on the field average every single day, just from their iron play alone, against the strongest field in golf.
That is exactly what the data show.
That's insane.
Over a 4-day tournament, that's a 7-stroke advantage strictly from hitting mid to long iron closer to the pin than everyone else. Elite iron play isn't just a nice statistical bonus at Sawgrass. It is the absolute foundation of a winning week.
So no faking it.
No one over that 5-year stretch won this tournament by faking it with their irons. And that feeds directly into the next critical metric the model highlights, which is strokes gained. Tee to green.
Let me guess. Equally massive numbers.
Yep. Over the last 5 years, winners at the Players averaged an incredible plus 2.921 strokes per round tee to green. They are nearly 3 full shots better than the field average every single day before they even pull the putter out of the bag.
That brings up something from the guide that completely upends how a lot of casual fans think about winning major golf tournaments. The classic cliche we all hear is drive for show, putt for dough.
Right, the oldest cliche in the book.
We are so conditioned to think the guy who makes the most 20-footers wins. But at TPC Sawgrass, the stats show that putting is almost secondary. It separates the top of the leaderboard, sure, but it absolutely does not carry a player to victory.
Not here.
Look at Scottie Scheffler in 2023. He won the 5th major while putting basically field average. He gained a microscopic plus 0.027 strokes on the greens. How is that mathematically possible?
It breaks the brain a little bit if you're stuck in that old school mindset. But Scheffler won because his ball striking was historically dominant that week. He simply didn't need to make 30-footers because he was constantly hitting it to 5 feet.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense.
Now, contrast that with Cameron Smith's win in 2022. Smith gained a massive plus 2.8880 strokes putting per round.
Which is huge.
He leaned heavily on his flat stick. He was completely unconscious on the greens. But even Smith, in the middle of a historic outlier putting week, still gained over a stroke and a half on approach.
So the irons were still there.
Exactly. The ultimate takeaway from the model is clear. Putting is variance, ball striking, and specifically iron play from that 150 to 200-yard bucket is the non-negotiable requirement to even be in the conversation on Sunday afternoon.
Here's where it gets really interesting now, because a player can have the perfect statistical profile, they can be flushing their irons on the range all week, and they can have the perfect game plan.
But Mother Nature has her own plans.
Exactly. They still have to deal with the weather. And this week, the weather forecast in Ponte Vedra Beach is setting up to be the ultimate wild card. Let's look at how the week starts. Thursday is looking like a very soft start.
Very soft.
Early forecasts are showing showers and possible thunderstorms rolling through on Thursday morning.
From a strategic and betting standpoint, that early range changes the entire complexion of the golf course.
Yeah.
The primary defense of TPC Sawgrass, as we discussed, is those small, firm Bermuda grass greens.
Right.
When it rains, those greens soften up and become receptive. They lose their bite. This means that players teeing off early on Thursday in that morning wave are going to have a massive opportunity to aggressively attack the pins.
Because the ball will just stop.
Precisely. They won't have to worry about a pure iron shot taking a huge, firm bounce and rolling off the back of the green into the rough or the water.
So if you're looking for first-round leader bets, or if you're playing daily fantasy, targeting guys in that early Thursday morning wave seems like an absolute must.
It's a huge edge.
They are getting prime real estate for going low before the course dries out. But no one should expect that dartboard golf to last, because the weekend forecast brings a totally different beast.
Oh yeah, the weekend is going to be tough.
By Friday afternoon and into Saturday, the forecast shows those breezy coastal winds picking up off the Atlantic. Now, the temperature is going to be gorgeous, holding steady between 73 and 79 degrees, so we aren't dealing with a freezing, miserable survival test like we sometimes see early in the season.
The stable temperatures are a relief for the players, sure, but the wind is the single biggest scoring variable at TPC Sawgrass. Because there's so much water and so many exposed areas on this property, even a moderate coastal wind totally disrupts distance control.
And distance control is everything here.
Exactly. And remember what we established earlier. The separation happens on approaches from 150 to 200 yards. Hitting a 175-yard iron to a 5,500 square foot green is hard enough from a flat lie in a vacuum.
Right.
Doing it when a gusting 15-mile-per-hour crosswind is actively pushing the ball toward a water hazard, that requires absolute mastery of ball flight and trajectory control. You have to be able to flight the ball down and cut it through the wind.
And inevitably, even the best iron players in the world are going to misjudge that wind at some point and miss those small greens.
Which is why scrambling metrics become so vital as the weekend progresses and the wind dries out the course. If you miss the green on the wrong side at Sawgrass, you are often left with an incredibly delicate, terrifying pitch shot off tight Bermuda grass over a bunker, staring directly at the water.
It's just brutal. If you can't get up and down for par in those moments, the coastal winds will absolutely destroy your scorecard. All right, so we know the incredibly demanding nature of the course. We know the approach stats that matter. We see the weather shift coming from a soft Thursday to a windy weekend. Let's put it all together.
Let's do it.
Who actually fits this highly specific profile? Based on the data matrix in our sources, the optimal archetype for this week is an elite iron player who excels with mid to long irons, manages their trajectory in the wind, and stays relentlessly disciplined.
That's the golden ticket.
If a player is a pure bomber, someone whose entire identity relies on overpowering the golf course off the tee, the model only gives them a 3-star fit rating. Power alone rarely dominates here. But if a player falls into the elite iron player or the all-around tee to green category, the model flags them as a 5-star fit.
And when you look at the top 10 model fits provided in the source, it reads like a who's who of precision golf. Sitting right at number 1 is the defending champion Rory McIlroy.
Which is wild, considering how hard it is to defend at this tournament.
It is, but statistically, his profile is undeniable right now. His elite strokes gained. Tee to green, his current approach numbers, and specifically his incredible par 4 scoring make him statistically the strongest overall profile in the field.
He's just so well-rounded.
He has the high ball flight to stop it on firm greens, but the experience to flight it down when the wind kicks up. Right behind him at number 2 is Siwoo Kim.
Ah, another former champ?
Yes, he is a former players' champion himself, and while his results can sometimes be erratic week to week, he possesses top-tier ball-striking metrics that are absolutely perfect for this specific precision test. And down at number 6 in the model, you find Hideki Matsuyama.
Hideki is such a fascinating name for this setup, especially given what we just talked about regarding the weekend weather.
Precisely. Not only is Hideki a legendary, reliable ball striker with his irons, but he currently ranks number 1 in scrambling among all the model players.
Oh, wow. Number 1.
Number 1. If the Friday and Saturday winds whip up as forecasted, and greens and regulation percentages plummet across the board, having the number 1 scrambler in the field is an incredible asset. He has the hands around the greens to save par where others are making double bogey.
I really appreciate how the guide translates those dense statistical profiles into actual names. It gives you such a clear lens to view the tournament through, rather than just staring at a wall of numbers.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's not just about the heavy favorites at the top of the board. The data highlights some incredible betting value further down the list.
Let's hear the value plays.
The sources zero in on two specific picks that perfectly encapsulate the statistical blueprint, offering much better payouts. The first is Colin Morikawa, currently sitting at 161 odds.
Let's talk about Morikawa because his form right now is impossible to ignore. He finished tied for 10th here last year, so he clearly knows how to navigate Dye's layout and deal with the visual intimidation.
Very true.
And if you look at his 2026 season so far, the guy is on an absolute tear. He already captured a massive victory at the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. He followed that up with a tied for 7th finish at the Genesis Invitational. And just last week, he grabbed a solo 5th at the Arnold Palmer Invitational.
It's an incredible, sustained run of form, and the underlying metrics show exactly why he is succeeding. Morikawa is essentially the poster child for the TPC Sawgrass archetype.
The precision.
Exactly. Right now, he ranks 9th on tour in driving accuracy and 22nd in proximity to hole. Those are two absolutely vital metrics for this week. You have to keep the ball in the fairway to avoid the penal rough and the water, and you have to hit your irons close to the pin on these tiny greens.
And he does both brilliantly.
Even with scrambling numbers that aren't top of the class, his elite tee to green performance creates an incredibly high floor. He is the modern definition of precision and controlled ball striking. Getting him at 161 in this form offers serious value.
I am buying all the Morikawa stock available. But the guide doesn't stop there. It digs even deeper into the mid-tier for a much bigger potential payout, highlighting Jake Knapp at 301 odds.
Jake Knapp is a great shout.
Knapp is a super interesting profile for Sawgrass. He finished tied for 12th here last year, so like Morikawa, he has proven he's comfortable on Pete Dye's turf. But it's his phenomenal early season consistency that really jumps off the page for me.
West Coast swing was huge for him.
Huge. He was tied for 5th at the Farmers, 8th at Phoenix, tied for 8th at Pebble Beach, and solo 6th at Genesis. That is the resume of a guy who is aggressively knocking on the door of a massive career-defining win.
The stats completely back up those high finishes, too. He currently ranks 4th on tour for strokes gained, putting in 1st overall for scoring average.
First overall.
First. That tells us he is heavily capitalizing on his birdie opportunities and, crucially for Sawgrass, avoiding the big catastrophic numbers. Now, there is one caveat that bettors need to be aware of. He withdrew from the Arnold Palmer Invitational last week due to an illness.
You know, in a weird way, that feels like the ultimate veteran betting angle.
How so?
Well, the Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill is an incredibly taxing tournament. The rough is thick, the greens are like concrete, and it beats players up physically and mentally. By stepping aside last week, Knapp got to rest up.
That's a great point.
He preserves all that momentum from his early season run on the West Coast, and he gets to arrive at Sawgrass fully recovered and fresh. Meanwhile, a huge chunk of this field is coming off a grueling, exhausting week in Orlando.
Yeah, they are going to be tired.
Exactly. A fully fit Jake Knapp at 301, leading the tour in scoring average, who just got an unexpected week of rest. That is a very tempting play.
It's a calculated risk given the illness, but a highly logical one when you align his scoring profile with the specific demands of TPC Sawgrass and factor in the fatigue of the Florida swing.
So what does this all mean? Let's bring this right back to you, listening right now. Armed with this knowledge, you are perfectly set up for this weekend. When you sit down to watch the broadcast or when you're talking with your friends, you're going to sound like an absolute expert.
You really will.
When the TV commentators start hyping up how far someone is driving the ball off the tee, you can just smile and tune it out. You know that raw driving distance stats are practically irrelevant here. Instead, you're going to be watching the approach shots from 150 to 200 yards out.
That's where the money is made.
And you're going to be watching the weather, knowing that the soft Thursday morning conditions offer a massive scoring advantage, while the breezy Friday afternoon winds are going to cause absolute chaos for anyone who can't control their trajectory.
You are looking for the precise ball strikers who can flight their irons down when that wind starts gusting off the coast, and the elite scramblers who can save par when they inevitably miss a green.
To synthesize the entire guide, TPC Sawgrass aggressively, relentlessly exposes weak iron play. It simply does not tolerate it. So if you are building a daily fantasy lineup this week, or if you're placing a few bets, the mandate from the data is crystal clear.
Crystal clear.
Build your core around elite iron players. Validate those choices by checking their tee to green form to make sure they are consistent. And treat putting as just a bonus. Do not chase the hot putter if the foundational ball striking isn't there. If you follow that blueprint, you are giving yourself a massive analytical edge over the public.
This raises an important question, and it's something I'd love for you to mull over as you watch the tournament unfold this week.
What's that?
As we discussed, TPC Sawgrass was explicitly built by Pete Dye to neutralize the biggest hitters. It was designed from the ground up to test pure precision, mental discipline, and strategy over brute strength. We live in an era where modern sports, and especially modern golf, are constantly obsessing over raw power, extreme distance, and physically overpowering the competition. Technology is always trying to make the ball go further, and athletes are swinging faster than ever before.
The game has changed so much.
It has. So isn't it fascinating, then, that golf's most unpredictable, most compelling, and arguably most thrilling test is the one course that forces the world's absolute best athletes to completely rein it in, put their power away, and play a meticulous game of strategy instead?
That really is the ultimate test of restraint, isn't it? Enjoy the chaos of the tournament this weekend, trust the approach data, keep an eye on that weekend wind, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.